You're listening to Tales of the Forsaken, an actual play podcast by Noble Jester Productions.
Welcome. We are going to be taking a little bit of a detour here and setting aside fate for a little bit, and we're going to try Ironsworn.
I'm super excited, reading through some of just the rules and how this works. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying this.
Yeah, I've tried it a little bit solo, just, testing out the system, and I like it a lot. And I think we're going to do this co-op. I'm not going to be the GM. Nobody's going to GM. We're going to use the Oracle tables and things, and we're going to, kind of do that together. But we're going to try this co-op and see how it goes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited. So this is not season 4. This is just something in between?
Yeah. I don't know what it'll be, but we'll come up with something.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to do this. We'll see how long we go, because at least when I've played this, I died pretty easily. So either I was terrible or it's just a killer system, and we'll see what happens.
That's very possible. Maybe it'll be short.
Yeah. So Ironsworn, if you're not familiar with Ironsworn, it's a system that it's very narrative in that, everything that you're doing is based on these vows that you take. So you have base level in the system. It's you're swearing on iron, it's kind of what makes you special, what your character is about. And then you start the game with an inciting incident that, you swear a vow to do something. And that's kind of the point of the game, is trying to complete this vow. And then as you go along, you'll find additional things that you might need to either, kind of sidetrack to do, or additional things that actually help you complete your vow. And so you take additional vows, and the easier they are, the faster you can complete them, and that's how you gain experience and level up, so to speak, and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
So I guess let's jump into character creation.
Yeah, we are both starting with just blank pages in front of us. So this is exciting. It kind of reminds me of like season 1, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to figure this out and mark it up as we go. So
yeah,
there's some of that similarities here, but you get to join me in doing this. So
exactly.
I'm excited.
All right, so we've decided that we are going to be both marked of Yindra on a mission for Yindra. So we are these people that have been, given special abilities by Yindra, kind of placing her favor and magical mark on us.
I think we should probably, if someone is starting right here and not with our regular seasons, let's maybe talk about who Yindra is, what Ryllian is, and set the scene so they don't necessarily have to know anything before listening to this.
Sure, yeah. So Ryllian is the custom world that we have been playing in, and it's kind of a fantasy western setting with a heavy dragon theme. Yindra is the god deity who rules over Ryllian. She is both the goddess and also kind of the queen of the world, and she took this position and deity, she took all this on a long time ago when she defeated the dragons that were ruling over the world, and has led the world into a different place. I don't know, any more information you think we need?
Yeah, I think a big driving factor in the world is Ecton. So Ecton is required to essentially use magic, and it is from a mined material that they refine this and do that. So there's a lot of control that happens from that. And if you go back and listen to our first season, if you haven't heard that, that's a lot about kind of these outlying towns who've been set up in these areas to help essentially mine this and provide it to the capital city with that.
Yeah, Yindra really rules over Ryllian with an iron fist. She has a lot of control over everything, and we've seen throughout the various seasons that that's not necessarily a good thing. She's not necessarily doing a good job with it, but she is doing what she's doing. As marked of Yindra, we are her chosen warriors, emissaries, the people that she surrounds herself with, and gifts these kind of special magical abilities. So we can manifest wings. We have this like beautiful golden skin, kind of an aura, and various other magical enhancements. So we're going to be on a mission for Yindra that we'll get into, but let's create some characters.
Awesome.
So in Ironsworn, your main 5 stats are Edge, Heart, Iron, Shadow, and Wits. Edge is really kind of like your athletics and ranged attacks. Heart, your mental fortitude, your how forcefully you do things. Iron is your toughness and your melee attacks. Shadow is how sneaky you are, and Wits is how smart you are.
Okay.
So it says to start with a name.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question is, at least for me, having created Ryllian, is where is my character from in Ryllian? And
right, because we're not necessarily like we're not from there, so I shouldn't necessarily.
You could be if you want to.
Yeah.
I think that my character will probably be from the New Frontier, the more western area, because I'm thinking more of kind of like a gunslinger character.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you were thinking as far as that goes, but that's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
Okay, cool. I mean, for me, sometimes it kind of helps to think about what my character is like, and then go with the name off of that versus the other way. So, I mean, if you're
you don't have to start with a name.
Yeah. Because my thought is if you're wanting to go with kind of the gunslinger type, maybe I go with a high heart, kind of the big lovable type guy.
Yeah, I like that.
I feel like it might kind of pair well with that.
Yeah. What's our character's relationship to one another? Are we, obviously we're both marked, we're on a mission together.
Yeah.
But are we related, friends, enemies,
Yeah, I mean, because you become a marked, essentially, right?
Correct. Yeah, she chooses, usually people are kind of presented at a temple at birth, and Yindra essentially chooses, those that she's going to mark, and then they're marked from, essentially from birth, and then grow up into whatever these roles are.
Okay. I'm trying to think for me, but with this type of personality, when I'm picturing maybe he actually is a half giant, where he was maybe born on Esmar, but not maybe his parents were, in the more of the trade, where he's detached from the culture because he didn't really grow up there, but that's where his lineage is.
Okay. I like that.
Okay. So that covers that part of it. So now what would lead him to be a marked, and how would he have met your character?
Well, I would think that, if your parents were, merchants of some kind or something like that, you may even have been born in Wardvin on a merchant trip or something like that. And, they went to a temple to dedicate you, and you were chosen. Whether or not they wanted that to happen, once you're chosen, there's really no going back. They're not going to say no to, these changes.
Sure,
There's nothing they can really do. So at that point, you would have been removed from your parents and raised in Wardvin. And, we could probably we were in a, essentially born around the same time and in the same kind of class together, essentially. You grow up in Wardvin in academies, taking these classes and things, and this is kind of who we are. We were raised in this priority, this service to Yindra, and trained to be her perfect whatever we are. You know? In this case, I guess our training would be more towards every Mark is trained in combat, but I feel like our specific training, because of what we've talked about, what we're going to do, our training would really be more towards really being like emissaries. Yeah, like, in politics is essentially what our training would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I like that.
And sneaky politics, you know? Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, we can skip the name for a moment. So, like I said, there's these 5 stats. You have to arrange your numbers across those 5 stats. You get a 3, 2 2s, and 2 1s.
Okay.
And like I said, edge and iron are really the combat ones. So those would be, unless you're going for more of like a magical character, where you might be able to do heart or wits or something.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest either edge or iron as one of your higher skills.
Right, yeah. Because I'd like him to stick around for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd probably do the iron as the 3. I think would be my guess, since you're probably going to go with edge, would be my assumption.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do edge as my 3. Probably wits as a 2.
What was the shadow one?
Shadow is how sneaky, deceptive, and cunning you are.
Oh, okay, got it. I think that's going to be one of my 1s.
I think I'm going to do a 2 in that.
Okay. I'm going to go 1 in edge, and I'll do my 2s in heart and wits.
Okay. And I think I'm going to do iron and heart as my 1s. So I'm not apparently very courageous or don't have a lot of empathy or, any of those things. So that's great.
It'll be a good balance.
Yeah. All right. So we've got that. Start health is at a 5. Spirit is kind of your mental state. So if you think of fate, this is kind of the mental track.
Mm-hmm.
And health is your physical track.
Yep.
Spirit is at a 5 to start. Supply is just, kind of your general level of your gear and those sorts of things.
Okay.
You're supposed to start with your supply at 5. I do think that we could talk about maybe reducing that sum to start because of how we're going to start.
Okay.
I think it would be interesting to have that a little lower, which would be kind of handicapping ourselves. But I think narratively it makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go with that. I like it. I like a challenge.
Yeah, so maybe start that at like a 3 or something.
Okay, cool.
All right. Momentum. So I kind of explained momentum already to you, Brett, but the way the momentum works is as you do these various moves and things, you gain or lose momentum, and your momentum maxes out at plus 10, but you can essentially spend, burn your momentum to help you in a certain circumstance, and then if it drops down, you get penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, creating an advantage for yourself in Fate. Momentum works similarly.
Okay.
So there are moves that you can do to kind of like create an advantage for yourself, which gives you a bonus to your momentum, so that you can then spend that to help yourself on another action.
Cool.
So you start with current momentum is set to a 2.
Okay.
Momentum reset down here is at plus 2, so if it resets it goes to plus 2 and the max is 10.
Cool.
Those numbers change as you get wounded, those sorts of things. It takes away from your max momentum, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Cool.
So to start, we have to swear 2 vows. So the first vow is just kind of your background vow. It's who your character is, what your long-term goals for your character are. So I would think it would make sense that at least my background vow would be, I have vowed to serve Yindra and carry out her wishes.
Yeah, I mean, that's clearly I think where my character would be as well.
Yeah. So I'm just going to write this in this top vow box here. We're supposed to set a difficulty for this. So if you look at the rules summary page here under progress tracks,
Mm-hmm.
the difficulty essentially shows how quickly you progress along this. I don't even know that we need to set a difficulty for this right now.
Okay.
I don't know that we're going to actually be doing a lot with this vow. It's kind of just the background vow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we will, but for right now, I think, our next vow is the one that we should really set for, we'll need to set a difficulty for that. It'll be kind of our main goal.
Okay.
And I think that vow would be, we've been tasked with going to Esmar, this island that is very tribal, populated by these half-giants of, where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been tasked with essentially finding a way to
expand Yndra's control and influence.
Bring them more fully under Yndra's influence. Whether that means picking one of these 8 tribes and, really trying to throw Yndra's influence behind them and get them more powerful and in control, or whether it means kind of playing them off against each other or trying to unite them under Yndra's influence, or whatever we need to do.
Okay.
That'll be kind of a, something that we'll probably need to figure out on the ground, but that would be the vow we're making here, is to do that for Yndra.
Okay.
So to bring Esmar more fully under her influence. Difficulty of this seems like a extreme, maybe epic. I don't know how long we're wanting this to last.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like, a very challenging thing, especially for just 2 marked headed out there to do that,
Yeah.
So extreme? I don't know.
Yeah.
How does that impact our gameplay?
Essentially, as you do things that would let you mark progress towards your vow, if you're at extreme, you mark 2 ticks, which is essentially 2 lines of an asterisk. Whereas, like formidable, you'd mark a full box. So you need, essentially at extreme, we would need 2 times of marking progress to fill in 1 box on this track.
Got it.
And you don't have to fully fill the track, but essentially there's a move that's to complete your vow, and how far along the track you've completed is essentially how easy or difficult it is.
Okay.
If you've only marked a couple of boxes, it's going to be almost impossible. If you've marked it almost fully, it's very likely.
Okay. So extreme it is.
Yeah, let's go extreme.
All right. We're just jumping into that.
All right, so those are our 2 vows. There are bonds. So bonds work similarly to vows in that you can kind of create a bond, and those, are kind of your NPC relationships, kind of, so to speak, with the people and places that you have influence with.
Okay.
So I think you're supposed to start with up to 3 bonds, and you would have a progress track for each one of those bonds as well. So you can progress and grow more fully connected to them. For myself, I would say the marked are 1 bond. I have this relationship to the other marked that, it's who I've grown up with. It's the community that I have, the people that I view as my family.
Mm-hmm.
Another bond that I would have probably would be you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the marked are kind of my family. I feel like we have this relationship where you're not my physical brother, but I view you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like my character is going to rely on you a lot, with some of my weaknesses and some of the, strengths that you have. I feel like he would view you as like the rock that he, kind of relies on.
Okay.
So you don't have to have the same bond, but that is what I feel like my character would have.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense too, because like you mentioned, we are going to have this bond with the marked, but within that you've got these smaller circles you're probably going to run in, and if we're having gone on missions on the frontier and these different things together, that definitely would have strengthened that. So yeah, I'm going to have that as well.
Okay.
But we can't really fill it in because we don't have names yet. So
no, we don't. And then for me, I think my 3rd bond, I might just leave that blank for now. I feel like you might want to have
yes,
a bond with one of these clans, though.
Yes, absolutely. I think with, even though I wasn't raised there, I've got this ancestral connection. So there's, it's going to be weak right now, but definitely that tie is going to be there. So let me look at your list of the clans.
If I were picking one of these clans that would make more sense,
probably the one on the southern portion of the Island Reichs is closer to Wardfin.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Greatheart clan is probably... Hard Rock is the largest city on Esmar. I feel like it's the most like a typical city. I think the Greatheart clan probably are the most... I don't know the right word, but the most like the rest of Ryllian. They've kind of culturally assimilated a lot of Yendra's culture and a lot of those sorts of things, and that would be the most familiar city, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So trading and those sorts of things would tend to go through that clan, I would think.
Okay. Yeah, so then my bond will be with the Greatheart clan. Should I have the Greatheart clan and the city, their main city of Hard Rock, as one bond? Or there's a benefit to having those two separate bonds? Like, because I could potentially... make connections within the city itself, but maybe that's not necessarily strengthening my bond with the Greatheart clan, or vice versa. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I would say both make sense. I mean, if you want to have... I could see having two separate bonds there. That, the actual city itself, maybe we... grow a relationship with this city, and that could be different than the clan itself, which is more broad. Yeah, either way, I think makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna go separate.
Yeah. See, now you've got 4 bonds.
Overachiever.
Yeah, and I have 2.
It won't take you long, I'm sure.
You can have one of mine. Okay. I don't really know my character well enough yet to set these bonds, so yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out as I go along.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right. So you are going to, let's see, at the start, you mark up to 3 ticks on your bond progress track. So
for each one?
Yeah. So a tick is just one line of an asterisk. So, I would just pick based on how you feel, how far along you are. Up to 3 for each one. So like the marked, I'm going to do a full 3.
Mm-hmm.
For you, I'm probably going to do the full 3.
And then that 4th tick is going to complete a progress track box. Then you'd move to the next, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, it looks right.
All right.
How many did you say you were doing with bond with me?
I did the full 3.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I'll do the same. I feel like we're going to need the bond to stay alive.
Yeah.
Greatheart clan, I feel like probably just like a single tick. Maybe it makes sense, you think?
Yeah, probably 1 or 2.
Yeah, maybe like 2 with the clan itself, just that, ancestry, but then Hard Rock City, maybe just 1, maybe just a name, because my parents were there.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, cool.
All right. There are debilities, these conditions and things that hurt you. Each one of these that gets marked reduces your max momentum by 1. And if you have 1 marked, your momentum reset goes down by 1. If you have more than 1, then your reset goes down to 0. Conditions, wounded, shaken, unprepared, encumbered, those sorts of things. I think they kind of just make sense. But we can return to this if those happen.
Yeah.
And then there's Banes, maimed, corrupted. Those are more serious and they're permanent. So if one of those 2 things happens, it stays. These conditions can happen and then go away and be healed, but the Banes are permanent.
Okay.
And then I think burdens are the most serious, and I think they essentially give you a quest. Like they give you a specific vow that you then have to go and complete to get rid of them.
Remove the burden. Okay.
So like if you're cursed, you have to then take a vow to go and, do something to remove this curse.
Okay.
All right, and then we come to assets. So assets are kind of what make your character unique. These are abilities, companions, various things that make your character who you are. They suggest that you don't take the same assets so that you can kind of be unique. You get 3 assets. I sent you a list of the assets.
Okay.
There's a lot of them, but it's kind of broken down by companions, and then paths are almost like a class. And there's a ton of those, and then there's combat talents as well, and then there's rituals, which are like spells.
Okay.
So this might take a while because there's a lot of them.
Well, now that's interesting. The blade-bound path.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sentient weapon. There's definitely things there.
Mm-hmm. The devotant one's kind of interesting with what we're doing, especially for Yindra,
I feel like that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it makes sense for my character since I took only a 1 in heart.
Yeah.
But it might really make sense for your character.
Yeah, especially with momentum. When you swear an iron vow to serve your god on a divine quest, you may roll roll plus your god's stat and re-roll any dice. When you sojourn by sharing the word of your god, you may roll plus your god's stat. If you do, take +1 momentum on a hit. Going around asking about. You heard the word of our Lord Yindra? Yeah, almost kind of like it.
I think it makes sense.
It does. Okay, so I think for my first one, I'm going to take this devotant path. I think it makes a lot of sense with me really being on Team Yindra,
Yeah.
So where do we add our assets?
I don't think that there's necessarily a place for that. Because I think you're actually supposed to use these cards and
Just kind of
have them. So I would just write it on the back of the sheet or something.
I'll probably print this later and have it out that way so I'll forget. Just because there's a lot of information there that it gives you. Now, since I've chosen a path asset, does that mean I only am able to use one path asset?
I don't believe so. I think you can... Some of these require that you have done something to get it, but I think you can have multiple paths.
Okay. Oh man, I think I need to take a companion. These are really cool.
They are pretty fun.
I have to take an owl.
You would.
I would. Man, the ritual, the ward is pretty cool. It's on the very last page. I feel like that would potentially make sense with my character.
I think I'm going to take Herbalist as a path.
Okay.
I'm kind of imagining my character as very self-sufficient, kind of likes to be out in the wilds, likes to be in nature and things. And I'm kind of thinking that an herbalist path makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. Can your herbalist guy make some really awesome anointing oils for when I'm bringing people to Yindra?
I think that makes sense, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, mostly I think it's about healing, but...
yeah, spiritual healing.
Yeah, we can totally...
Jesse.
All right.
Another kind of interesting one. So there's this invoke ritual where you're kind of consuming the mystical essence of the surroundings. That might be kind of cool for my character as I'm traveling back to my ancestral homeland of kind of tapping into that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I kind of like that. I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are definitely gonna print and laminate these cards. By the way, I have a laminator. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. I think I'm gonna take the combat talent archer, and just gonna make it apply to a gun in this scenario instead of a bow, because there's no guns in Ironsworn, so
yeah.
So that kind of plays into the gunslinger aspect.
Cool.
So you're going kind of magical. You're going for a ritual.
There's some really cool stuff in here.
So obviously these rituals are a lot more about, it's a different kind of magic than we're kind of used to. But I actually think it kind of makes sense going into this place that's heavily druidic in nature. You would probably be already kind of a little bit steeped in that culture if you paid any attention to your own, home culture.
Yeah.
And because Ectin and things like that are harder to acquire, maybe not for us, but in normal situations, it almost feels like it makes sense for Mark to have kind of these intrinsic abilities that don't necessarily need Ectin, that are just kind of gifts from Yindra. I think I might take the ritual Shadow Walk.
I don't know what that is, but that sounds awesome. I'm just picturing a lot of times of me like standing out somewhere like, come on, and you're hiding in the shadows and poof.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man, that really makes me want to take a shield.
Well, what kind of, are you thinking of using a gun, or are you thinking of using like a sword or an axe or
let's see
hammer?
Here.
There's a
Hang on.
combat talent Thunderbringer wielding a mighty hammer. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Let me look at my, let's see, I've already got 3 assets, so I'd have to drop probably my owl for that.
Yeah. You don't have to do that, and
I know.
I think we get more as you go along. So
Okay.
yeah, additional assets can be acquired with experience points when you advance.
Well, maybe I work towards getting my owl later for my homeland, and that's something that like just kind of planning ahead for my next asset.
Yeah. And if you look at these assets, so the first, there's 3 things to each asset. The first one is, the bubble is filled in. You start with that, and then you upgrade them to get the additional ones.
Oh, okay. The shield bearer might be pretty beneficial of, adding a +1 when facing danger. Or do I just really want to smash stuff?
I'm going to stick with the ones I've picked, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I'm going to pick my last one here. I'm looking at either like the shield bearer or the sword master. It's like I'd be having to burn a lot of momentum to inflict more harm. Okay, I'm going to do shield bearer. Shield will probably be like the size of you.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Can you just move that to the side a little bit more? Okay, right there.
The next step is just to make note of any important equipment or items that you want to have. I think we can just kind of figure that out as we go along.
Yeah, I like that.
You have a shield, obviously. Probably have a weapon,
Yeah, I have a shield and a sword.
I got a couple of guns, And I think then, now we're just back to, we need to come up with names.
We need names.
I think my character's name is going to be Kor.
Okay.
Like K-O-R. I don't think he probably had a last name at some point, but hasn't bothered to maintain it or keep it up, so.
Sure. I'm thinking, what about Uli? O-U-L-E.
Uli.
It was like an old English variant for like owl, kind of like a derivative of the old German word.
Okay. All right. Kor and Uli.
All right.
It works.
Do I want a last name though? That's the...
Well, I think your last name should be your clan.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So it would be, Uli Greatheart.
Yeah.
That's pretty dang awesome.
It is.
And you are Kor, K-O-R?
Yep.
Okay.
Probably just, goes by Kor of the Marked. It's like I feel like his identity is pretty fully invested in being a Marked.
Okay.
So there's not really anything about his background that stands out enough for him to want to identify with it. So.
Okay, so character sheets are filled out. We have our names, which is always the hardest part. Actually, that didn't seem that hard. Or maybe just because we were putting it off for 30 minutes of us chatting.
I mean, I was thinking about it the entire 30 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Okay. That's a good name. It's a strong name.
It's just is a name, but apparently it took me 30 minutes to come up with a name. So.
Okay.
All right. So we have been given this quest by Yindra to go to the island nation of Esmar and bring them more fully under her control. We are on a ship and we're traveling from Wardvin probably to Hard Rock. So, kind of making our way along the southern coast of Esmar. We stand on the deck of the ship watching the cold sea churn below the ship. The captain has assured us that things are only going to get colder as we reach the icy shores of Esmar. So, Kor looks over at Uli and starts to say something when everything happens all at once. The lookout on the ship cries out, "There's a marked approaching!" At the same time, a gunshot echoes across the sea. Moments later, an explosion below decks lifts us off of our feet. And Kor's last thoughts before his vision goes black as he hits the water is his worst fears have come true. We've been betrayed by one of our own.